Hey, what's new?
Oh, well, I've inherited a campground for kittens.
Oh,
Yeah, I love them so much.
yeah, it sounds like you've got some intense felines. Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Lorikit Magnet Dale.
And I'm not Jane Aerith Magnet Dale, and welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast for two queer trans women, that's us, we're wifey types. We talk about media we've consumed in the week and have a bit of a catch-up and a silly little giggle.
Yeah.
How you doing?
I'm alright, I'm petting a little kitten.
Yeah, she's come to join us for the podcast today. Come for a little settle.
She's a little lap baby. You can tell the sun has gone down. She has become very much more, I need a human for warmth and
Yeah,
sleep.
there's been about 4 months in which she's not been a particularly, cuddle up on laps kitty, and as soon as the weather turned wintry, she's like, hello, I'm back for cuddles now.
As soon as we got below 22 degrees, she's like, now is the time. It's like, I'm glad we have that in common, because I too am like 22, 21 and a half degrees is about my... now I'm a bit chilly. Now it's hoodie weather.
Yeah.
Sort of.
I can wear a light hoodie, maybe.
Yeah, I need a lighter hoodie. I have several major hoodies, but...
The one I'm wearing today is nice and thin.
It's a lovely hoodie. It's very soft.
It's very
You're
soft.
very cuddleable.
Yeah.
Not that you aren't usually, but extra soft.
Well, we've been consuming bits of media this
We
week,
have,
probably.
non-tasty
Some of them
media.
are the things we've played. What have you been playing this
What
week?
have I been playing? Well, just to recap, I've played a whole bunch more Signalis. I'm still continuing to stream that. There's now 3 of those streams up. Very much enjoying it so far. It's giving me an excuse to practice little bits of German, even though I know that as soon as I press right to scroll to the next bit of text, it will tell me in English what the thing in the background is saying. It's like, but I want to practice the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been fun doing that, and chat have been lovely. And yeah, we got into quite an interesting conversation about the difficulty level that I tend to play horror games at, which is easy or casual in this case. And the reason for that being the horror games that I have given up on, like Alien Isolation.
Yeah.
Loved it. Watched loads of playthroughs of it. It seemed really interesting. For some reason, the few times I have tried to play it, and I've done the full install, I've got ready to play it, it's a huge install, I've tried to stream it, it won't stream for some reason. For whatever reason, it will not connect to... As soon as I, turn on OBS, it's like, no, not allowed. No streaming for you. So that's never happened. But, I always end up just getting, immediately ganked by the alien repeatedly. And well, now I'm just bored. I don't have that tension anymore of, I don't want to get caught. And in this, I'm getting hit occasionally, but it's yes, but I only got hit, once. Or maybe twice. And that was enough that it kept the tension and kept me wanting to play, but maybe wasn't what should have happened is that thing should have hit you once and you immediately die. It's yeah, but if that happens more than once, I'm just going to be bored with it. All of the tension and free cortisol is going to be just completely lost, and at that point I will probably lose interest in the game as a whole. But chat have been really nice, just not judging me for that, and also stream attacks.
Yes. For anyone who's not aware of the term, it's the I'm paying attention to chat and the game and trying to hold conversations, and that makes everyone worse at games.
Oh yes.
But yeah, a thing I see a lot of people do is they conflate the idea that making a horror game harder makes it scarier. And I don't think that's true. I think I very much am in the same camp as you, where if the difficulty is preventing me progressing in a way where I know what's coming and I'm struggling to get past it and have to repeat the same supposed to be scary moment over and over, it kills the pacing, it kills the tension, and it kills the scariness.
Yeah.
It stops being scary if I have to see the same thing play out the same way multiple times in a row. And, Alien Isolation's a great example of that, where it's I'm seeing the game for what it is as a piece of media gatekeeping my progression, and not being in the moment of the whole experience.
Yeah, it's a shame because, like, I've watched people play Alien Isolation, and I've seen lots of people have these experiences of, oh yeah, well, you know, I saw the alien and I managed to, like, get away from it and hide, and it didn't immediately catch me. And the few times I've played, it's like, I hid behind a table, and it started walking away, and then seemingly somehow knew that I was there, even though I hadn't really moved or made any sound, leapt up on the table and stabbed me through the back of the head. And I watched that 3 or 4 times in various iterations in the same sort of area, and I got bored and uninstalled it.
I don't blame you for going, hey, I'm gonna play my spooky game on easy.
Yeah. Like, even something like, it's not Deadly Premonition, is it? What's the, it's very Silent Hill, but it's 2D side-on, and the guy's wearing a mask, and it always looks like a big smile.
Oh, I know exactly the one you mean. Covered it really early on Indie Haven.
Yeah, I feel like it is DP, but it's not Deadly Premonition.
It's definitely not Deadly Premonition.
But, you know the one I mean. But yes,
yeah.
they did like a super edition of it, I think, last year that made a lot of people upset, because it wasn't significantly different from... is it Lone Survivor?
I'm pretty sure it's Lone Survivor.
Lone Survivor. There we go.
I put in enough keywords to get to it.
And my brain was like, Lone Survivor.
Yeah.
I saw a picture, and I was like, yeah, that's
Lone Survivor.
Lone Survivor. Yeah, like, that, I don't think I've actually died that many times, but that's one of the ones that has been so intense to play.
Yeah.
It's like, unless I can finish, like, 90% of it in one sitting, I'm probably just going to never come back to it, or at least not until next October when it's time to play more spook games. I'm like, I should go back and give that another go. I remember last year on stream I had one really good go at it. It's like, I've never got this far in this game before. And then, like, that was it, end of stream, and next week ended up doing something else for whatever reason. It's like, one day I'll get back to that, because it seems like a fascinating narrative, and manages to be genuinely tense with only a few pixels. Well done for that. And the Signalis, yeah, fascinating, weird, slightly surreal, and, like, this whole catalogue of anime robots that have all these weird personality traits, and the fact that, like, their personality seems to have been, like, copied from a person at some point. There's I can't remember. I think they're called miners. They are like heavy techs. They have, like, mining lasers and stuff. But their like profile pictures look like they're all sort of cozy and snug because they're in these giant sort of like mining harnesses. But always in their profile pictures like, oh, we're just having a little snug friend. And yeah, it's been a fun play, and I'm still going for it, and I hope, don't know how far through it I am, but I'm enjoying it so far, and I hope to finish the thing.
Yeah.
What about you? What have you played?
I've not been playing a lot new this week, in that this has been a week of, I have so many things just bubbling around waiting to happen that are happening at the moment. Like, life's wild at the second.
It is.
But I played a couple of things. I played more Halls of Torment, which is that sort of original Diablo-looking vampire deriver game. That game runs great on Steam Deck. It is a good fit for
I think it's only got like the yellow eye on it as well. So for whatever reason, it's very good.
I might know part of that. I've occasionally had weirdness with controller inputs with that game.
Is it like when it's like, I want a mouse input for this one?
I don't know if it's even that. It's trying. It doesn't. So I remember when I first set it up, I had to set, I think it was WASD to the analog stick. And the problem is by default it doesn't recognize controllers properly.
Right.
And if you, like, I had an experience where I plugged a controller in to, like, play it on stream, and couldn't do the aiming with the right stick. It just didn't recognize that at all. Like, some of it's recognizing controller functionality for USB controllers is a bit funky sometimes.
Weird.
Honestly, on Steam Deck itself,
it's great.
I've had no problems with it, but like clearly wasn't designed for controllers.
You've got a Steam control, haven't you?
Somewhere, yeah. I got to dig it out still.
It's like a fairly good example of it. Weirdly, the longer I've had a Steam Deck, the more I'm like, you know what? Tracking down a Steam controller might not be the worst thing.
The trackpads are great.
Yeah.
I love. They were ahead of their time.
Yeah.
But yes, I've been playing more Halls of Torment. We've talked about this before. It is kind of like Vampire Survivors, except you start with just one weapon, and there are some scrolls you can get by beating bosses to get like other kind of bonus weapon things. But it's basically, here's your one weapon, go for it.
And there's tons of quests that unlock more traits, more blessings, more permanent upgrades, more things that will appear.
I've got like 7 characters unlocked now, and I enjoy that they all play very differently from each other. I had my first successful run, and that was with... No, I think just the one.
I thought you got through a second level. I definitely saw you get to the end of one, and I thought it was after you said
I did. Sorry, I beat a second level, and it didn't... That was the thing, is it didn't require me to go get the 2 halves of the thing, like the first one. Yes. The cleric, while a little bit glass cannon in the early part of a run, is fucking OP.
Oh, yeah.
The cleric is amazing.
Oh, yes.
There was a period of time where I was dubious of your claim of the cleric's power and was like, I'm having fun with the exterminator, I'm doing that. No, the cleric is fucking great.
I've unlocked the first 3 levels, but I haven't got very far with them too. I've beaten the first 3 bosses. I've, done a run on the last level, but this was the week before they, did some balancing on that, 4th level, which at the moment is the last one in the game. And, there was one boss that I was literally kiting it around for 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Which by that point meant that other enemies had spawned in as well. And I just could not get close enough to it to do enough damage with the cleric. But I don't know if it's been slightly rebalanced since then. I know some stuff was done with that level. But also, the fact that I'd done a bunch of quests in other levels, which had unlocked, which means I was getting more experience generally.
But yes, I do find it fascinating, cleric being the highest DPS character class is fucking wild.
It's unusual for an adventure game an action-adventure game.
But I continue to be having a lot of fun with Halls of Torment. It is one of the better vampire drivers that I've got in rotation now.
100%.
Yeah. What about you? What you been playing this week?
Well, I have started playing a game called Shadows of Doubt.
Ooh.
Have you heard of this?
The name's not familiar.
So I heard about this from a Game Maker's Toolkit video a while ago, talking about the problem with mysteries in games, and the sort of talking about things like LA Noire and the problem of you weren't really doing a lot. You were very sort of pointed in specific directions, and then the only real sleuthing you were doing was try and understand this person's facial expressions and then choose one of 3 options depending on how you feel about that, which as an autistic person just couldn't manage ever. Couldn't ever work out what the fuck 99% of those facial expressions were supposed to be. But this is a procedurally generated voxel-based murder mystery simulator. It will... I'm only playing the first mission, which is, here is a pre-built city. So it is from a seed, and we know that these things will work.
Yes.
And you are given a very specific case, and you have to go and work that out. So you have 10 sort of... Well, you've got 12 city blocks, but 2 of them are parkland. And you have the 10 remaining buildings are a mixture of shops around the bottom and food vendors in certain districts you'll find dotted along the edges of the buildings. Then you'll have an apartment entrance usually, and above that there will be bunches of different apartments, and there's around 300 simulated people that are just birthed into this world. They will have jobs, routines. They'll get up and they'll go to and do their jobs, and everyone's pretty cagey generally, but you can find ways of sort of getting more charming. It's really trying to do the Deus Ex Human Revolution thing of, hey, you know, all the mystery of find the key codes and get into various things and sneak through air vents and things like that and track down information based on environmental stuff. It's doing that, but you won't find that 99% of the doors aren't real doors. They don't and cannot lead to anything. In this, everything does lead to something. You can just go running around in the vents. People probably won't be terribly happy if you just drop out of a ceiling vent in their bathroom while they're having a poo. You can potentially break into someone's apartment while they're asleep and sneak around and like steal their passwords. You can find out where people work. You can track stuff that sort of stuff down. And I think I'm like 8 hours in at the moment, and I have not solved the murder mystery. I found 2 bodies so far. The one person that I was like, yep, I think that person, they definitely met for dinner the night before, so I'm going to track them down, and I tracked them down to their apartment, and they were a corpse on the floor of their apartment.
Oops.
It's like, oh dear, this is a problem. And then I realised that maybe I hadn't, because I didn't sort of have a full grasp of all the mechanics, maybe I'd missed something at the first corpse, so I went back, but by that point, somebody had, like, taped off the scene, and there was a cop just wandering up and down the hallway. So I was like, okay, right, so I need to sort of very carefully close that apartment door without breaking the crime scene tape, and then finding a way around the building to sneak into the vent shafts and then drop into that apartment from inside. But now the door's shut, the cop standing outside won't notice me wandering around going, I'm sorry, I forgot to take your fingerprints before I left. Yeah, it's a fascinating world, and I am curious about, once I've got through the tutorial, of what will a entirely randomly generated world look like. Like, there's these jobs that appear to be randomly generated. Things like, hey, I want you to humiliate someone. So you accept the job, and it's like, okay, go to, like, this person and say, like, this name sent you. Cool, you've been assigned a job. Okay, here's the thing. Here's, like, a piece of paper, and it's telling you, okay, you've got to go to this restaurant. There's going to be a briefcase underneath a table. Go and get the briefcase, open the briefcase, look inside, and it'll be, like, the next bit of the mission to go on, and then wander off to wherever that is, like, looking up in, like, the phone directory is like, okay, I have a lead of this person's name. Cool. Well, I've got a phone number for that person. I can find that out, so I can ring them and maybe track that down. I can go to City Hall and look up that person and see if I can get, like, their address and maybe, like, where they work, and then maybe track them down to work. Maybe break into their office after hours, go through their company files, like, find out where they live, maybe, like, check their desk for information. You can, like, buy random things like password hackers, basically like a dictionary cracker that you just have to sit there while it goes through every possible combination. It is a fascinating game so far. It's still in early access, but there is a huge amount there already for what's going on, and I'm enjoying it so far. And it's under 15 quid at the moment, so yeah, pretty decent for what's there, and I'm excited for where it might go, and I'm enjoying it so far. Yeah. What about you? Have you played anything else?
The only other thing I've played, really this week, and I've not played a huge amount of it, is I played a bit of Train Sim World 4.
Oh, yes.
Which I got code for. I've been playing around a bit with that. I'll be honest, I've not played enough of it to have a really solid sense of what makes this any different from Train Sim World 3. I picked it up, booted it up, did the tutorials to be like, remind myself what I'm doing to play this with controller. And I started playing around with the East Midlands East Coast Mainline train service. I do appreciate that there is, like, for some of the like starting rail services, you have, like, here are a couple of campaigns. This first campaign, I did like a 2.5 hour long stream and got maybe 3 missions deep into the first 27 mission campaign for the East Coast Mainline. The second campaign is shorter. I think it's only 12 missions.
And that's just for East Coast Mainline. Are there missions for other
Yeah,
lines?
there is.
Wow.
I think I have like another 3 or 4 like train plus track combos.
Fucking hell.
And what I will say for those little campaigns is I appreciate that the first couple of missions, other than being like, hey, we're just making sure you're comfortable with the train you're going to be using for this, like there'll be a little circular track you can just do your little test on.
Okay.
You will get a little tutorial and like a little lesson about the train. So it's like, oh,
None of
hey.
this. I don't know if this button is the stop the alarm on this particular train.
Exactly. It'll be like, okay, we got the grips of how you use this specific train and its little fiddliness. Anyway, let me tell you about how in this year these trains came into this train line in order to replace the old trains, which have been around since this year and, had been very out of date. And let me tell you about the fact that this is primarily designed to be electrically driven. This is the LNER Azuma. But it's also got a diesel engine that can run for X amount of time should something go wrong, with the ability to power it by overhead electrical cables.
Oh.
This is a little history lesson.
That's very cool.
Learn about this train while you drive between some stations.
I've honestly always been a bit unsure about the Train Simulator World games, because every time I go on the Steam page for them, the adverts for them make them look a lot more arcadey than something like Train Simulator, like the year-numbered ones.
The way I would put it, the difference between them to me fundamentally is Train Simulator, like the numbered year one, is... it is very unstructured. It is, here's a bunch of content, you do what you want with it. We're not going to penalise you for playing it however you wish to play it. If you want to do as I've done and any percent speedrun certain train tracks and just be like, I'm going to ignore all the stations, I'm going to ignore this, I'm just going to speed for the end, it ain't going to stop you doing that. The Train Sim World series is a lot more, here is authored content to do, where oops, you overshot the platform, by way too much, or you ran a red signal, you failed your mission, try again.
Okay.
And for example, one of the missions I was doing the other day, I was trying to time out roughly what mile per hour I had to be hitting to get to the next station at about the right time, because I knew what time I needed to be there to open the doors and how many miles away it was in terms of track distance. And I went a certain speed, and I was like, well, I'll go a little faster than I need you to, get some extra time for slowing down at the other end. And I ended up about 4 minutes ahead of where I needed to be to go into the station, and forgot, because I haven't played Train Sim World in a while, that I actually have to pay proper attention to the signals on the track, and ran a red signal, and it was like, yeah, no, there was a previous train still in that station, because you're here 4 minutes before the platform is yours. And I'm like, yeah, that's fair. But yeah, they're very similar in the moment-to-moment playing. It's just, do you want to be completely unstructured, or do you want to have, objectives? That's sort of the difference between the two categories.
And I know Train Simulator World 3 would run Sim World 2 content. Do you know if that's still the case?
I don't know for certain. My gut instinct is yes. I think that is the case.
Okay.
I don't know for certain.
Okay. I'm curious to know if it goes. If it does go back to 3, does it also go back 2 and...
Yes. So, I can find that out, but I don't currently know, and the reason is that most of my Train Sim World play has been on console.
Okay.
And then I moved over to PC, because PC is what I had code for this new one for, so I don't know if DLC carries forward, but I do have a lot of DLC codes for Train Sim World 3 and 2 that I could put in and see whether they pop up in 4. So I'm going to find that out at some point.
Exciting.
Yeah, what about you? You played anything else this week?
I've been playing much more Final Girl. Been enjoying having the odd game here and there. I think partly due to the fact that I've just got better at, faster at setup and tear down. That it's okay, I've got a quick 40 minutes. I can dash a game out of an afternoon, and that's been fun. It's also nice to sort of disconnect from the screen for a little bit, because it's I could go and do some PC gaming or something else. It's been nice to have something that's just I'm just gonna get on with that. But we've talked about Final Girl before. It's a solo horror film simulator game. You are the titular final girl, and you have to try and save the other victims. and stop as victims are killed by the killer. They will get more bloodlust and eventually get more powerful, and potentially you'll have to have a big final showdown, and they will be more powerful as a result of how many victims you've let them kill. So the more you can save, the better, but also you do ultimately get you will get your ultimate ability if you rescue enough. And I've finally started doing some of the mixing and matching stuff. The whole thing with Final Girl is you get like a core box, which is everything you need to play any of the feature film boxes, and then the feature film box will have a killer on one side and a location on the other, and the killers all react in different ways. There's currently technically 12, because you've got the 2 vignette killers as well, and then there's a location on the other side, so it might be like the Storybook Woods, which we've played before, and I think I've talked about previously. It's quite a small map, lots of large open spaces, but there is potential for being sort of caught in places. The key thing with the Storybook Woods is that the bridges that connect the mainland to this big central island are rickety, and only one victim will follow you across at a time, whereas usually you can carry 2 around with you. It's like, okay, if I want to get you out, I'm going to have to ferry you out, like, one at a time, back and forward across this thing, and hope that whatever the killer is doesn't just come round and just murder everyone that I've just brought to this nice location. Thanks! But yeah, I've been doing a lot more combination stuff. So I've done Dr. Fright at Creech Manor. I've done the Evomorph, which is the alien one from season 2 in I think Storybook Woods and Creech Manor. I did Dr. Fright at the Wind Garden Cottage, which is the one that's based on the home invasion killer with the 3 different ones.
Yeah.
That was really interesting with that sort of Freddy style killer. I've had some really good games. I've been looking at sort of other people's advice for different play styles, because I realised that I will either win relatively well or lose tragically quite quickly, and been looking for advice of because a lot of people say it's got nothing to do with despite having most of your decisions based on a dice roll, that shouldn't be all there is. There are lots of ways of mitigating that, and there are the number of times that I've not bothered looking for items, and that has gone very badly for me, and people have pointed out statistically, if you do the maths on it, having a weapon that adds even 1 hit to it or 1 damage to every attack you do is definitely worth it, because or even something that you doesn't work as a modifier. It's just you use this weapon, it will always hit and it will always do this much damage, especially for certain killers who will just get more and more and more health forever, or a killer who has had all of their minor dark powers come out. It's okay, you've got 2 more health for that, and something horrible happens, and stays there until I have dealt with those 2 particular damage. Still really enjoying Final Girl, enjoying the mixing and matching. I think initially I'd wanted to go through all of the feature films with the Final Girls that came with those particular boxes, because you always get 2 with each box, and unlocking their secret envelopes, because each Final Girl has a secret envelope. And it's been wanting to just do those, I'll do them in the natural things, sort of get used to what they were intended as, and then start futzing around with them. And yeah, I'm realising how annoying Maple Lane is, which is the Elm Street thing, parallel, where you have to convince people to try and go in their houses. Yeah. It's but I need to save you, otherwise you're all going to die, you silly bastards. And that being a whole pain in the arse. I've been really enjoying it, and I look forward to playing more, and will probably report further on this. And at some point, I will get round to streaming some of it as well. But it is a real faff to set up for, because it's a bit of a table hog, and got to do the top-down camera on that. But yeah, have you played anything else?
That's about it for me, really. At least in terms of stuff I can really talk about.
Well done!
Time for this.
Clara, you have to come with me. You're being chased.
Wait, sorry, what's happening?
Clara, you have to come with me right now. There's a robot over there, and it's come from the future.
Oh no!
We have to get out of here as soon as possible.
Okay.
Okay. Get on the back of my bike. I'm gonna teach you how to make pipe bombs and get away from this.
Okay, that sounds really cool. Okay.
Okay, so I'm from the future. Your son is the leader of, resistance, the last vestiges of humanity, because there was a machine and the machine took over.
Oh, okay. Okay, what do I need to know? How do I fight back, I guess?
Well, the AI was trained on source data from the internet.
Okay.
You're gonna have to debate the robot.
Oh no. Oh god, it's not being trained on like Reddit, am I the arsehole?
Mostly Reddit.
Oh,
a lot of Reddit and 4chan.
Oh god. Okay.
Claire Sama, I'm here from the future.
I'm sure you are.
I understand that you disagree with the way the future is going.
Yeah, I'd like it to not be destroyed, please.
Fucking debate me!
Coming this summer, the term debater. Okay, everyone. I need ideas.
Okay. Right.
Look, the advertisers have left, so we need to find a way to make this social media empire, well, more empire-y again. Because I have made decisions, and
sure have.
my decisions have been wise, thoughtful, and well considered, but people who aren't as smart as me have been unable to see my genius. So I need ideas from you about how we can make this website work again.
Okay, so what if we introduce new features, but paywall them behind payments, and they're not going to be services anyone actually wants, but to add perceived value. So
all text on images.
Well, no, that we do already have that. I mean,
but what if we made it paid?
Well, see, I wasn't going to.
It's now a premium.
I wasn't going to jump to that. I was going to suggest we add something that no one wants, our text-based social media. You can do phone calls on it or something. But no, let's just cut to the chase. Let's just paywall stuff we've already done.
Okay, messages.
What, direct personal messages? Not just all messages, not just posting to the site, of course.
Not yet. What if there was a flat fee per message, or you could pay an annual subscription? That's a really good way of getting a lot of money out of people in one go. It's an annual subscription. You can post as many times as you want, asterisk, 150 per year.
Ooh! What if we learn from that game development engine, and we make it so if your social post gets shared more than 1,000 times, you then have to do our per share fee, where you owe us money per time that it's shared retroactively. So if you go over 1,000 shares, you got to pay money for those first 1,000 once you go to 1,001.
What about a follower cap? People can't follow you and hear all the very interesting things that you have to say unless you pay a fee for, every person, and while we're about it, maybe we inflate some of the numbers. I know I said I was going to get rid of all the bots, but if there are bots, surely that is just a part of the system and not, those other bots.
Look, I mean, these ideas are all very good, but I want to circle back, because I think you were too quick to dismiss the idea that we just charge full stop for access to the thing. We just paywall the entire app. And that, I don't think that's going to turn everyone off. I think
that will make it more like an exclusive club.
I think everyone will go, well, I'm used to using this app that was free before and is now paid. Yeah. I will pay to get back in. And I don't think it will cause any kind of exodus to other platforms.
Right, because boomers don't like change. So they're not going to want to go and learn how to use Meta or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
They're probably confused where their damn Facebook accounts went.
Yeah.
So, what have you put in your eyes that you can talk about?
I mean, yeah, the strikes are still ongoing, though. Progress has been made. Yes. Let's acknowledge the WGA strike is tentatively approaching being over.
You mean to say that they didn't lose their houses, but it was in fact the execs who were like, no.
Yeah, it turns out, all it takes is Drew Barrymore trying to bring her talk show back and getting shouted down into an apology to make the studios go, oh, okay, people are still paying attention. I guess we gotta pay writers. So yeah, the WGA strike is technically not over at the time we record this, although it might be by the time you're listening to it. A tentative agreement has been reached and will be voted on by the union members soon. That's super cool. SAG-AFTRA strike is still going though,
Yes.
and may soon extend to video game voice actors.
Yes.
So we're still not talking about work from Struck Studios.
Oh no.
Which again limits what we can talk about in the watch section, but there's a couple of things I've watched.
Indeed. There's probably going to be a bumper episode in a few months.
Oh,
of
there's going to be an episode
all
where
the
it's
things you
just a
wanted to
watch section. There's no other section. It's like, let's talk about like 6 months of films and TV. But things I can talk about. I've been going down a rabbit hole of like YouTube content this week. Specifically watching a lot of Digital Foundry content about DLSS upscaling.
Oh yes, we talked previously about some of the stuff of like what they thought was going to be like for the potential Switch 2, 4 or 5 years ago?
Yeah, when like the Switch Pro was being sort of floated and like the first talk of DLS upscaling on a handheld was going around. And it's gotten me down a rabbit hole of not specifically like Switch-specific DLSS videos, but just watching a lot of different like videos about the various versions of DLSS upscaling that have existed over the past like 4 years, and what they were good at, what they struggled at, how that technology has evolved over the years in terms of like the incremental improvements it has had. And it's been an interesting deep dive down from this is mainly like at the start, it's kind of impressive this exists, but it's not really practical, to where it's at now, where people are fucking around with, what if I play a game at 240p and scale it up to 1080, and it doesn't look amazing, but that's 240p, that looks better than 240p.
You extracted an awful lot from those.
Yeah, you've taken very few pixels and made something surprisingly playable. Like, if I played this docked on my Switch, it would probably be about fine.
Yeah.
Like, one of the videos I was watching was specifically Death Stranding at 240p, DLSS upscaled, I think 3.0. And I looked at it and I was like, this looks about as good as the Witcher 3 port that was like dedicatedly made for Switch hardware, and I'm like, that is kind of fascinating. It's been interesting being less laser focused in and going, what is this tech and how has it been evolving over time? So that's been interesting, and then that sort of led me down another little corner of YouTube stuff I was binging, which was specifically watching a bunch of videos from around the era from like when the Switch was first revealed with that like 2-minute trailer.
When you were talking about...
Yeah, I was talking about stuff.
The home button.
Around then, through to like a week or so, like right around launch day, and the period of like that first trailer, the January where they did the like kind of poorly placed press conference, doing the reveal stuff, but sort of ending on that really cool Breath of the Wild trailer. It's gonna be a launch day title. And then, like, early launch day reviews of the Switch. And the thing that's really interesting, looking back on all that kind of content now, is how much sentiment has increased for the positive for Switch.
It was a lot of, it's not powerful enough.
There was a lot of pessimism about the raw horsepower of the system, and about, like, this feels underpowered compared to potential next-gen systems that might be coming already, and it's barely even begun. And it's really interesting watching that, like, specifically watching the pessimism around, there's no guarantee this will have much software, like, Nintendo doesn't have a history of having enough first-party software to support a system, and third parties probably won't support it at all because it's quite weak. And I was sort of jumping around from that to, like, videos from maybe, like, a year or two in. And the things that, like, in hindsight weren't really being taken into account, I think, were, A, Nintendo having combined their handheld and console first-party studios to make things for just a single console.
Yeah.
Which, if you look at the Switch's lifespan, there were so many good first-party games so regularly because they were only developing twice as much because it was for half as many systems.
Yeah, although initially when it was first being announced, they were talking about it's not a successor to the 3DS.
It wasn't. But
Don't worry about the 3DS.
But they had already announced that they were combining their studios together and like moving them into the same buildings. And
I think recently, because they've recently sold like 4 different versions of the 3DS.
Yes,
like the XL, the XL.
I mean,
whatever it was.
It's the thing they constantly do. It's the third pillar approach. They tried to say it with the Wii, that the Wii wasn't going to be a replacement for the GameCube or the DS. It was a third pillar, and that basically means we're not committing to it in case it flops.
We'll knock one of the legs out of this third pillar as soon as it suits us.
Yeah. But the other thing, I suppose, is like there was a lot of underestimation of how much that thing the Switch's early years would become like the place where people wanted to play indies, and that whole like. Before the Steam Deck existed, if you wanted an indie game on the go, the Switch was the thing that was powerful enough to run most indies. And how much of a big like thing that was for carrying it through its early years. It's just really interesting watching back in hindsight the sort of where the sentiment was about the hardware compared to like at this point. I don't think anyone would say that like that was an unsuccessful system.
No.
So yeah, it was just an interesting deep dive into old video game tech analysis and review and impressions content, and just sort of it's always interesting. I always get this way when like we're sort of getting toward when new hardware's probably going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's interesting to sort of look at, like, what are the cycles that the games press goes through?
Yeah. In a similar way, like, I was also sort of dotting around, like, I watched some reactions to the PS5 reveal event, and, like, the first, like, here are the games that we're announcing right now for PS5 at the start of that system's life. And yeah, it's interesting watching like the cycles of sentiment and what is received well and how that kind of messaging has to land to like temper future feelings about hardware. It's interesting seeing what lands and what doesn't, and where people's what people latch onto as good or bad signs about hardware.
I think it feels quite interesting that, like, at least as far as I've noticed, for the last couple of hardware generations, we haven't had that thing that we had with, I'm going way back and then slightly less way back, but like Commodore 64. When it started, not really very gamey, no one really knew how to make games on it, and by the end we had like Mayhem and Monsterland, which was basically their answer to Sonic the Hedgehog. Like, big colourful graphics, fast-paced, lots going on, really interesting effects. Then, like, the PS2 launch titles, Fantavision. By the end, we're getting things like Gun and Black and Shadow of the Colossus. And it feels like less these days we have those moments of we're right at the tail end of the system, people really understand how to use it to its absolute best, and they're just making incredible things that no one ever thought would happen.
So, like, I think of like more modern examples of that, like the PS3 with The Last of Us. The Last of Us was like the last big thing released for the PS3, and it was definitely one of those. And Nintendo's not so much had that experience with Switch, but I think third parties, like a ratings board leak suggested, I think the day before we record this, that Red Dead Redemption 2 is getting ported to Switch.
Actually ported, or another
it seems like actually ported. Red Dead Redemption 1 got actually ported like pretty recently, and we were doing some research on stream going, is this a cloud version? Cloud versions of games don't seem to get their own certification ratings on Switch. At least in the UK with PEGI. PEGI doesn't rate cloud versions.
Interesting.
They just use the
like
PEGI
a
rating
lipo for someone.
They use the PEGI rating from the other existing versions. They don't like recertify it, which
I mean, I guess if that's what they're basically running,
but like and I think look, for all the complaints people are having about the cutscenes in Mortal Kombat 1 Switch port, and I think those are fair, the fighting itself runs at 60 FPS of a fighting game released 7 years in and a new console generation into the Switch's life. We're seeing pretty ambitious ports come to Switch across its lifespan. Some of them better than others, but like...
I remember being quite impressed by Doom 2016, even though, having gone back to it more recently, like, the loading times on the Switch are...
I played all the way through Doom 2016 on Switch, and it was a damn impressive port.
Yeah, it was very good. That reminds me, I need to play Doom Eternal now. They've taken Denuvo out of it on
PC. So yeah, that's some stuff I've been watching. What about you? What you been watching?
Yeah, well, I watched a few things. I watched an animated short called RC Dreams of Daikon by 87 Render on YouTube. I might have talked about this person before. They do, like, fully anime-style Transformers videos. There was one that was all about Starscream, I think I talked about a couple of years ago. This one is about 8 minutes long, and it's RC fighting Galvatron in sort of like world-ending moments. There's some Starscream and some Hot Rod in there as well, and it's just beautifully animated, like amazing. Like it's properly, beautifully lit and animated. The posing, the action scenes, the entertaining little like cuts to things from other properties, like being like run past or driven past in various scenes in the battle in the city. And it's a beautiful little thing. It's worth checking out. It's available on YouTube. And the other thing which I ended up watching because we'd been talking previously about music and the quality of it, admittedly in skits. But this was a video on Leon's channel, on Renegade Cut, of what happened to music on the radio. And it's about how laws changed in the US regarding who could broadcast, how long they could broadcast, how they could broadcast on the radio, and the way that changed sometime around, like, Clinton era. And that we've, like, if you look at pop charts now, like, there's very little rock in the charts. There's very little rock that gets played on radio. The type of rock that does get played is, like, stuff from a decade or more ago, and it's all dubbed as classic rock, or dad rock even. And the way that, like, a lot of the people you'll see now, they're all solo acts, or it's a solo artist, maybe doing gigs with a band, but, like, you might not even know the name of the band at any point.
Yeah.
And how, like basically, the music industry has, like, managed to homogenize things in such a way that they are keeping costs down while obviously absolutely extracting the most of things.
Yeah.
And because rock bands tend to not be as manageable, controllable, and bands in general, because there's more of them, and they'll talk to each other and make decisions for their own best interests.
I mean,
whereas you can, like, poke solo artists about. It's an interesting video, and I'm probably not doing it justice with the things I remember from it, but yes, it's interesting to look at it from that point of view of, you're probably not going to hear big radio play for interesting rock bands anymore, because they don't want to do that, because it's expensive and not as easy to control.
There's more people who want a slice of that income because there's multiple members in a band, and when you talk about them being less controllable, I instantly think back to the year that Rage Against the Machine were Christmas #1 in the UK, and were asked to play live on the BBC, and promised not to swear, and then got to the "fuck you, I won't do what you tell me" chorus, like, breakdown of that song. And I'm like, what did you think was gonna happen, BBC?
Yeah.
The whole bit of... I saw a beautiful skit on TikTok the other day about that, like a behind the scenes of that moment, where it's like, okay, so you want us to do what you tell us.
Yes.
And not swear.
Yes, please.
You want us to not swear and do what you tell us.
Yes, if you do
And
what we
then
tell
the line you
then-
have a problem with is "fuck you, I won't do what you tell me,"
Yes, I don't think that's very BBC.
and you'd like us to not swear and do what you tell us.
Yes, if you wouldn't.
Okay,
mind.
got it. I understand.
Okay, ready? And 3, 2, 1.
Oh, that recording is fucking beautiful.
It was a beautiful moment in television history. I think got 2 out before it was cut.
They got 2 or 3 in, and it fades away, and it's the presenter's response where she says something to the effect of well, they did something there that they promised us they weren't going to do.
Yes.
But they promised you they wouldn't say "fuck you, I won't do what you tell me."
Yeah.
Oh.
It's not to quite the same standard, but it does kind of remind me of when I went to Reading in '98, and I was sort of just meandering through the crowd, not really interested in much that was going on the first day, and the Prodigy came on and was like, as the Beastie Boys came off. And they were like, hey, so we got a call from the Beastie Boys earlier asking us not to play this. Here's Smack My Bitch Up. Well.
Again, I understand why executives don't want rock bands, because they do shit like this, and it's great.
Yeah.
This is exactly what I want out of performers, is, you want to put me in a little corporate box, do you? Fuck off.
Oh, yes. But it's an interesting watch, and it also talks about things like fashion and why that hasn't changed, why a lot of that has stayed the same, because nothing has really changed.
Yeah.
Because capitalism doesn't really want it to. Let's keep it all very controlled. In the sort of most general overarching ways, anyway. Have you watched anything else that you can talk about?
The only other thing I can really talk about is I watched a Carl Jobst video.
Yes.
On
Who's
YouTube.
been naughty today?
Yeah, so if you don't know, there's a person on YouTube who does videos usually about speedrunning and the such.
Mm-hmm.
He made a video about speedrunning in Call of Duty Black Ops 3 Zombies,
Okay.
which, the gist of this is most of the time when speedrunners cheat doing speedruns, it falls into one of 2 categories. It's either long-time established, genuinely very good speedrunner is, frustrated and, cheats at a game and, knows enough about the game to cheat in a way that won't be detectable. Or person who has never played the game before and cheats very obviously and tries to jump up to number 1 with no one ever having heard of them before and gets caught straight away. This was a very different story, and the short version is, it is the story of someone who spent about 6 months trying to slowly, right from the start they were faking their speedruns, but they tried to spend 6 months slowly increasing their times, interacting with the community, doing things on
all
stream.
The things that are usually massive red flags if you don't do that.
Yeah, doing all the things that, they were playing the long game. They spent 6 months building up in a believable fashion to their world record speedrun, and then, when they did their world record speedrun, they just put the run up, and people were like, cool. And this is a fairly standard thing if someone gets a new, top place world record, is to go, can you send us, the recording of the whole session? Because, you presumably didn't just record the one run where you got the world record. You'd probably hit record and played for a few hours. Can you show us the session recording? And there is one very obvious mistake that any speedrunner who knew what they were doing and was trying to fake their run would have avoided making.
Right.
That is there and is very fucking obvious, and it's quite funny. The 6 months of building up trust and believability to make one fuck up and just put their hands up and go, yeah, I was faking from the start. It's an interesting little story.
Wild.
So go. Carl Jobst generally does really good speedrunning content.
And always getting into it with Billy Mitchell as well.
Indeed, yes. The legal battle between him and Billy Mitchell has been fascinating to watch.
Oh, yes. The King of Kong, he's never done and cheat.
Yeah, the other one of his I watched this week was a video about the very first level of GoldenEye, which I did not know. Carl Jost currently has the uncontested world record for, like, that single level in GoldenEye.
You mean he's the person that would do and I was the person who made it?
He very rarely does those, and
Yeah.
he at the start was like, I don't like doing and it was me speedrunning videos.
That's usually how those speedrunning
But
videos go.
it was specifically a video about, like, look, if I'm ever going to talk about one speedrun record I've had, I want it to be this one. And he talks a lot about, like, his history with GoldenEye and why it means a lot to him, and the history of GoldenEye speedrunning that led to the one very lucky run he had that is 1 second faster than the previous record. And the energy he brought to it was very much like, this is currently, like, the longest held uncontested GoldenEye world record. He's had it for, I think, like 5 years now. And he's like, I know I will not have this forever. And it is the record I am the proudest of, and I will celebrate the people who, like, are trying to beat this record today and are putting hundreds of hours into doing so. And if someone ties the record with me, I will be very proud for them, and admittedly a little sad, because I will probably never have a record this notable for this long ever again. And it's quite a beautiful little bittersweet video about, like, the history of speedrunning, specifically the very first level that everyone remembers from GoldenEye, and the confluence of events that had to come together for him to, by 1 second, break the record. It's a really interesting little video.
I was watching a lateral video the other day talking about people who were sort of cheating at GoldenEye.
Oh, I know entirely what story this is. This is the
people who had played Perfect Dark and gone reticle, you say?
Yes, GoldenEye didn't have a reticle for aiming, and Perfect Dark speedrunners had an aiming reticle in that game and started putting little crosshairs of tape on their TV screens and doing much better than all the other GoldenEye speedrunners.
Yep.
Yes, there are some fascinating videos about the controversy and the arguments that led to. As with any time that, like, something disrupts the speedrunning community, and now it's like, oh, we gotta decide on new conventions now.
Drama.
Yeah. So that's it for stuff I can talk about this week that I've watched. What about you?
That's me then.
Well then, time for this.
Hey Laura,
Yes?
we've got a new sponsor.
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, do you enjoy the experience of cinema?
Indeed. I'm not going to talk about specifics, but I do enjoy the experience of cinema.
But you enjoy, like, going and enjoying the cinema, the large screen, the incredible audio quality.
Yep.
But you also enjoy watching film at home.
I mean, I enjoy watching film by myself and not having to deal with people
Indeed.
being there.
Yeah.
I remember...
You don't have to worry about people on their phones.
Yeah. I remember we saw a family-friendly animated film at some point, and there were children there that
There were children, there was rustling.
There sure was rustling. Wasn't a fan of those aspects of it, but I do enjoy the big screen.
What if the big screen and the big audio, but no one shuffling past you 6 times to go to the loo?
Oh, that sounds great.
Well, this week's sponsor is emptytheatrealarm.lol.net.
Tell me more.
Well, they will give you a little buzz on the app to let you know that your local cinema is showing a movie. No one has booked. No one has booked ticket.
Oh.
There's no tickets booked. You'll be the only one in there.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's a chance someone else might get the buzz and might also go, but, like, there's going to be barely anyone there. If anyone, it might just be me. That sounds perfect.
You will have to be willing to go and watch the film at, like, midday on a Tuesday during term time.
I mean, I thankfully have a job that sort of affords me that flexibility. It's not for everyone, but you never know. You might occasionally get a buzz at, like, 6:30 p.m. on a Wednesday. It just happened to be that way.
Yeah. No one was ready for this film yet.
Yeah.
But you can be.
We're on, like, the 30th screening of that film. No one just happened to be around that night.
Do you want to watch a film that I'm not going to name drop because
Yeah, we're not
there's still a strike on?
No, we're not going to name drop any movies, but, like, I'll go see a film if there's no one seeing it.
That's emptytheatrealarm.lol.net. Enter the code Q&PS2 is 78, and you can get a little buzz in your pocket.
That's a wonderful service, and if we weren't in a strike, I would tell you about all the films that service would help me see.
Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi.
Hi.
So, what's on the docket today? What's new?
Well, you know how people were unhappy that we used AI for the entirety of our latest game?
Oh god, they're upset again.
Yeah. They're unhappy about the AI, right? So, I figured, what if we were to pay someone?
I don't like that. That means less money for us.
Well, just one person, right? We're not gonna spread it amongst a whole team.
That's
We're not gonna get a whole
still
art
person.
department.
That's still not us. Why do I care about whoever this person is we give money to? Why do I care about them? I care about me.
Well, I was thinking, you know how your sister went to art college?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So. And she knows how to use a computer, right?
Yeah.
Well, what if we were to say we are paying a local homegrown talent? You know, we're making local jobs. They like to talk about us being the wealth
great.
creators.
Yeah.
And we'll just pay her a reasonable amount.
Well, I mean that's
to do the work.
I mean, look, I was upset because I thought we were giving money to someone, someone I don't know.
Right.
That's barely even a person at that point.
Yeah.
If it's for someone in my family, that's basically the money. The money is staying, where it's supposed to be.
Exactly.
If I can't have the money, the very least is, it be someone who materially benefit. I care about them having money.
Right.
Because then they don't come to me asking me for money.
Yeah, she's not going to ask you for any more money.
No, because she'll have money.
Yeah, she'll have her own money, and maybe she'll stop sleeping on your couch.
I mean...
One of your couches.
One of them. It's somewhere in the North Wing.
Yeah, somewhere in the North Wing. Yeah. I think that'll work, and we'll put out a whole, press release about how we're, it's a good local person. It's important that we're paying local people to do the thing, and the value of that.
What's more local than someone already sleeping
on your
in my
couch?
yacht?
Yeah.
You're a fucking genius.
I know. So, what has gone in your ears?
I've not listened to a lot this week. Again, I say this a lot at the moment. A lot's been going on. I've not had a lot of brain space for new audio input. I did go back and listen to, in isolation, away from its source material, Welcome to Mountport, from the Dropout Play It By Ear improviser musical
it's a song
game
about
show.
them living near a mountain range and the sea.
The mountain is right next to the sea. How can that be?
Yes.
So I believe this was from before Play It By Ear was its own show. I think this was from the Game Changer episode.
See, I thought it was from the first season of Play It By Ear.
It might be
one
from
of the first videos.
You might be right. It was one of the first times that the group of people who are mainstays for Play It By Ear, because we've talked about Play It By Ear before. People improvise a musical with basic prompts given to them, and this was one of the first, very memorable ones they did, was the happenings in a town called Mountport. That opening number for Welcome to Mountport, it holds up so well. It is such a catchy little number.
It's good, it's uplifting, they did a good job of capturing opening of a musical.
Indeed, I very much enjoy its little sort of intercut interludes of, characters from around the town chiming in with things and being sort of shut down a little bit.
What was the one from, was it last week's episode that it was glass paint children nothing or something?
Yes, so I was about to get to that, and I didn't put it in watched because I had little to put in listened, so I'm putting it in listened. Last week's episode of Play It By Ear was called Elevator Pitch, and was about a group of tech people, a tech startup that was going to go pitch Internet 2 to a bunch of CEOs, and they weren't entirely sure what that was going to be, but they were going to work it out. And yes, it had a musical number where some coders went to a techno club and sung about, what was it again? It was...
I think it's because their idea for Internet 2 turned out to be pictures of your children painted onto glass.
Yes.
And I think the thing was they kept interspersing it with children glass or glass children nothing, but I can't remember what the other word.
Everything nothing children glass.
That was
Everything nothing children glass, and doing their sort of voguing along to it.
Yes, it was pretty fucking wild for something that came out of their brains in the moment.
Yeah.
And then having that sort of peppered back into all the other musical numbers later.
Elevator Pitch is one of my favourite Play It By Ear episodes in a while. Without saying too much, it makes one of the wildest character shifts I've seen work in a narrative. They make it work very well.
Oh, yes.
Those characters, put them over there. We're doing these characters.
Yep. And the one where they had to do all the key changes.
Yes. Yeah, sometimes they will have challenges such as do as many key changes as possible in a single song.
Oh, yeah.
I quite enjoyed the song about getting to the 13th floor and there being forms to fill in, and you've got to fill the forms incorrectly or you will get cursed.
And sent down to different floors.
Yeah, if you get up to floor 14, but if you do the forms there wrong, you go back to 13, and then you get cursed on 13, and go to the time void.
The time void.
Play It By Ear is a fun show.
It really is, and
Elevator Pitch was particularly good.
Yeah, it's not fucking easy to do that, and I'm constantly impressed that they managed to do it.
Indeed. What about you? What have you been listening
I've
to?
got a couple. I can't remember if I've talked about one of these before, but this is DJ Kamabund, who we've talked about a few times. He does mashups and stuff.
Very technically, very polished mashups.
Yeah, but avoiding things like, There I Ruined It, who's just like, I got an AI to sing this thing in the style of like Frank Sinatra or something. It's like, okay. But these are like really rather good mashups of, so the first one is Hips Aren't Alright, which is Hips Don't Lie and Offspring's Kids Ain't Alright.
Yeah.
Which is just fascinating. And it's usually the concept of the thing nailed in quite early on, and then like the last third of the track just peppering in other things that you wouldn't necessarily expect, which is particularly noticeable in the other one I want to mention, which is I Teach Sins Not Dougies.
Yeah.
Which goes from being like, teach me how to Dougie and
I Write Sins Not Tragedies.
I Write Sins Not Tragedies to Brendan Urie doesn't want to dance and you can't make him.
Yeah. Yeah, it does have a tonal shift. He really doesn't want to be made to dance.
And then just finding, like, any other reference to dancing in songs. There's a bit of Bowie in there. I can't remember who else appears, but the music videos for those are incredible as well. Just, like, mashing everything together. Yeah, it's good stuff. Go check it out. He's done a bunch of really fascinating mashups, but, like, those last two, I think, have been possibly my favourites. He is getting real good. I don't know if this is just gearing up for his residency in LA that he recently got, but it's very danceable, which is sometimes you'll find with a mashup it's like, yeah, that was technically very clever, but I'm not getting anything extra out of it. And these last two have been like, yeah, I want this. I want this on my phone. I want to listen to this. Just generally for music listenery.
Seeing who else shows up in that track. Enrique Iglesias, the Bee Gees, Men Without Hats, Safety Dance, I think. Whitney Houston, Luther Vandross, David Bowie, CNC Music Factory. There's a whole bunch of things in there.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah, real talent.
Hell yeah. Have you listened to anything else?
That's about it for me.
Well then.
Time for this. Welcome back from the break, and welcome everyone to another episode of everyone's favourite new game show, Prove It! The game show where very, very overconfident men are put to the test on things they are very confident they can do.
I wouldn't say I'm overconfident. I would say I'm exactly as confident as I should be, given, my skills, my abilities.
My talents, my raw talents.
Well, before we get ahead of ourselves, this is our contestant, Fred. Welcome, Fred. So, have you been told yet what you're being brought here to prove it this week?
Well, I've talked about how I could, wrestle a bear, how I could run in an entire country. I assume I'm probably going to be, my king or something today. I've talked about how I could eat, the hottest possible curry, Scovilles in the quadrillions. I reckon I can manage that,
Well, it's none of those today, today. Last week, you told your wife very confidently you could beat Serena Williams one-on-one at tennis.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Well, today's your lucky day, because she's here tonight. Everyone's watching.
She got muscly arms and looks like on telly, I must say.
Yeah, surprisingly enough, a previous a world's greatest tennis player, pretty muscular, pretty good at tennis. Are you ready? Millions of people at home are watching. Are you ready? Prove it.
Oh yeah, I'll prove it, no problem. And maybe afterwards I can show you a few things, and a racket, love.
Wonderful. Well, everyone, let's switch over to the Let's Have a Laugh at Them cam, and we'll be back after these messages.
But this is not all a setup yet. They're not actually.
No, it's real. You're gonna have to do the test. You were gonna get so fucking embarrassed.
I thought we were bros. I thought we were,
No, I am here. I am explicitly here to watch you fail. It's going to be gorgeous.
Feels like a bit of a betrayal, mate. I'll be on.
The show's called Prove It.
Well,
what do you think was going to happen?
Well, you talk about reality TV, and it's not, not really well. I'm just going to need a quick bathroom. Oh,
unfortunately, there's no time. And welcome
that
back.
Security guard's very like, my arm. I think we've received a shock off the buzzer from the last round, and it's all floppy now.
You know what time it is, audience? Embarrassed contestant buzzer.
Yeah, careful with the buzzer. That's the one that got me. Yeah. Well, obviously, love. I would. As I said, I would love to show you tennis, but, there's not going to... It's a terrible day.
It's a terrible day. Oh, goodness.
Oh.
Right. We're all gathered here today to mourn a great and terrible loss.
A terrible loss.
My fellow movie industry executives.
Indeed.
We are here today.
Yes.
First, to mourn a small amount of income that we are having to give up.
Less than 0.000000001% of my value.
I know, but that is now money we are unfortunately going to have to give up now that we've caved on the WGA
Parasites,
strikes.
Every one of them.
I know, absolutely. Sucking us dry. We will weep, we will mourn.
Yes.
We will never get over the loss. We also have one other round of mourning to do. At least this one's not ongoing, but we're also here to mourn the large amount of income that we lost by not just caving sooner.
2% of my possible earnings lost.
Absolutely devastated.
Who could have foreseen that the public would still be paying attention? I'm so used to them just not giving a fuck after 5 minutes. Have we trained them to have shorter attention spans than this?
I know. Well, we will all mourn in the traditional way with the 21-gun golden gun salute, firing solid gold bullets into the air in commiseration.
Single disposable guns firing single disposable bullets of pure gold.
Oh, indeed, it is the way.
Diamonds and orphan meat.
Oh, yes.
Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Social justice warriors.
Yeah.
Right,
Barry. How you doing?
Oh, getting a bit chilly, mate. Nearly soup season. Ready for the soup. You doing all right?
oh, I'm doing pretty all right, you know. I was pretty happy to see the positive news about the WGA strike sort of coming to a close.
Yeah, very positive. Yeah, very positive.
It's I haven't seen the specifics of what their deal is yet, but it does, the official statement does seem to suggest that they are very happy. It gives the impression that they probably got most of the things that they were their big points, like no replacing writers with AI, residuals for streaming shows, stuff like that, which absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and I hope that other sectors find it empowering and use that as their reason to step forward and stand up for themselves and demand fair and decent treatment.
And I think it's important to remember that this isn't the end of the battle, because even WGA hasn't signed the paperwork yet, so it's not technically over at this moment, but there are other, strikes still ongoing, and other ones are going to crop up again soon, because SAG-AFTRA is still going, and I will say, WGA do seem to have implied that, they have specifically fought for things they know that SAG-AFTRA is fighting for to hopefully make it easier path for them to get their, strike points now, because they can point at the WGA and go, you gave the WGA those things, give them to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's a fight that's not done yet. The artist and illustrators animation unions are currently striking. It seems like the SAG-AFTRA voice actors union is about to start striking, probably.
I didn't see much about the VFX artists, so there was rumblings on that.
And again, there's still time, it might still happen. It's good seeing so many separate but in the same industry sort of going, this is a moment and let's ride this wave and let's get it all done,
I hope it spreads, far and wide.
Yeah, it honestly seems like a good time for unions at the moment, in general anyway. You're seeing more and more video game unions starting to form. Weird that it's never happened before, but for all my problems with Joe Biden, he is the first ever sitting president to go and join the picket line of a union, with the Automotive Workers Union,
to be honest,
which is it's a low fucking bar to cross, but no president has ever done that before while in office as president, so fucking more power. It really does seem like we're reaching a tipping point of the wealthy realising, oh fuck, we've kind of pushed the working class and the, further than we really should have, and we're getting some pushback.
Yeah, the agreements we made, things like the 40-hour working week and so forth, these were, ultimately agreements based on the fact that we wouldn't, come to the houses of the wealthy and burn them down burn them down in their sleep.
Exactly. And again, the 40-hour work week it means a very different thing today than what it meant when it was introduced.
Oh, absolutely.
The idea when it was introduced was a single person working a full-time 40-hour week could support themselves and a family on that, and that is certainly not what that means anymore.
Yeah, and I've been hearing things recently talking about, like medieval serfs weren't working nearly as hard as, people are today, and they were considered, working themselves to death, basically, in horrible conditions. So,
it feels like we are having a moment of consciousness happening of quite how badly we are being fucked over by the upper classes, and I am glad to see a degree of solidarity for striking workers and a more general awareness of don't fucking cross the picket line, don't be a scab, support strikers.
Absolutely, and I hope this expands and continues, and long may it continue, and until everyone has their fair share.
If we get to the point where there's a fucking general strike, more fucking power to fucking strikers.
Yeah, I've been calling for it for years.
I wouldn't be surprised if we got there in the next decade. It feels like it is increasingly likely.
Yeah, they can only keep raising the voting age for so long.
Indeed.
Fancy a mate.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Good hug, mate. Good hug.
Good luck.
Right, we can go and pop the kettle on.
Oh, sounds good.
Nice. So, Laura,
Yes.
you do stuff what is on the internet that
I
people
do
can
stuff,
see.
Yeah.
Tell us about where do.
You can find the stuff I do on the internet at Laura K. Buzz pretty much everywhere. Laura K. Buzz on Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Patreon, that's the one that pays the bills. You can find me on Mastodon, Blue Sky, wherever you find people, you'll find me at Laura K. Buzz.
Hell yeah.
Things I've got coming up. The big one, Stories of Autistic Joy. It's releasing on October 19th.
October 19th.
The 19th of October. That's the date and month combination of when it's releasing. That's less than a month away.
Yeah.
Bunch of positive, stories from autistic people about their own, internal experiences of joy.
It's
that
a beautiful book.
specific to them. It's a beautiful little book. I'm very proud of it.
Should be.
Check that out soon. There is a episode of Accessibility going up this week that is about the leaked design for a new Xbox controller and some of the accessibility positives of it maybe having motion controls, but also the fact that, there's some negatives, and they probably won't be a thing immediately, but by 2028, Xbox will need to have a plan of how to not shoot their own accessibility efforts in the foot if they do this.
Yeah.
It's one of my favourite episodes I've worked on in a while. I'm really proud of it, and it feels like a video I can put out at a time where there's 5 years for someone to act upon it. So I always like those.
We can call back to it in 5 years' time and go,
Indeed.
did they do the right thing?
Exactly. We can look in 5 years and go, did they follow Laura's very good advice? So, yeah, check those out. What about you? Where are you at on the internet?
Me, I don't have all your unified branding, but I've got a link tree. It's linktree.ee/Janiac, Janeiac. I make music, I design t-shirts, all sorts of things. You can find all of my links over there. I've got a Patreon. It's patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio. For as little as $1 a month, you can help me justify a 76-hour work week and help me keep creating all the things that I do. You can watch me stream. I stream on Thursday nights around about 8 o'clock UK time. Come on by, say hello. We have a lovely chat. We've got a Discord. Yeah, come say hi. Laura,
Yes?
will you sing us out, please, darling?
Until next time, be a stranger.